that we've had a huge increase in new subscribers. About a third of our previous number have joined us in the last month. So I'm going to go through the whole spiel of my name. I don't normally do that for every podcast, but I feel like there's more people and just getting back into the rhythm of it, kind of explaining who I am. So I live in Nebraska and I am the mom of 5 kids. They are preacher's kids, and my husband is a pastor in the Presbyterian church. We live in a house provided by the church, and in the Presbyterian church that is called a manse. So that is where I get the Mama in a Manse name. It kind of speaks, besides the knitting, it speaks to the main other parts of my life. And it fit, and it was something unique. So that's where I am on that. My kids are 20 months up to 10. Tomorrow she will be 11. So we have kind of a almost 10-year span of 5 kids. So I think that's most of the administrative stuff. If you have any questions that you would like to ask me, or subjects that you would like to hear about on the podcast, please go to the Ravelry group, and there is a thread for that. Let me know. I'm always looking for things to kind of fill out content. But other than that, I think I'm going to just jump right into it. I didn't take the time to make any notes today, so I may end up rattling a little bit. I'm sorry. It has been 3 weeks since I podcasted last, and I feel like I'm kind of out of the habit of it again, and I did not intend to take a break. However, the Sunday before last, I ended up preaching for my husband, who went down with the flu on Friday night, and then Sunday night, I got the flu, and then everybody in our family, except for our 7-year-old, got the flu. And last Sunday, it was still going on in our house, and I got over the flu, but then had kind of a chest inflammation thing going on and a pretty bad cough, which hopefully I will be able to get through now without having a lot of problems with that. But I knew that even when I was feeling better, that I couldn't talk for an hour without hacking up a lung. So I kind of put it off for another extra week. So it's been a little bit. There was an entire week that I did not knit, so I don't feel like I have very much, but as I was kind of gathering stuff, there's some stuff to show. So anyway, without further ado, I guess I will jump right in. One of the first thing that I'm going to show you is a finished object that I talked a tiny bit about on the last podcast. It is the test knit that I've been working on since Christmas break, and I was unable to show you because it was a secret test knit. So since I podcast last, it has come out that Suburban Stitcher has her Peach Collective, and one of the things included in that was a pattern for socks made by Prairie Girl Designs, or Prairie Girl Susie, or Susie White, however you want to label her. She designed a pattern called Life's a Peach, and did it in the Suburban Stitcher colorway, and I believe you can kind of make your own kit out of the different like peach lotion and yarn and bags and pattern and stitch markers and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So you can find that over on Suburban Stitcher's website. And I think that's just suburbanstitcher.com. But anyway, these are the socks that I knit from Susie's pattern. And they are out of Malabrigo. I did show the yarn when I decided on them. I made the large size and intend them for my mother. I have not actually woven in the ends. As you can see, they're just kind of tucked in there. That one I didn't weave in because I'm lazy. But the ones in the toes, I actually went ahead and left those on purpose Because I haven't made a pair of socks specifically for her, and my foot cutout that I used for sizing is for the Fish Lips Kiss heel, and this uses a heel flap and gusset, which is kind of Susie's standard. I wanted to make sure, I want my mom to try these on before I'm like done with them, and I didn't want to weave in an end and then have a hard time finding it if I have to rip back and like add some more on the toe. The yarn itself, I split the ball in two, and you can tell, I think you can tell in the picture, I can definitely tell in person that one seems a little bit lighter than the other. That is kind of a, you know, something that happens with hand-dyed yarn. This is more of a commercial hand-dyed yarn, but it is kind of a deeper colors. So I really enjoyed this. I really love this slip stitch detail, and I hope that that's picking up. You can see it really well in person. But even with the like super crazy variegated yarn, it really shows up and looks nice, and it lines up nice. Susie did a really good job of making sure that it lines up pretty with the edges, and like centering these across the instep and all that kind of stuff. Like, she did a very good detail. Also, the top has a little bit of a scallop. I don't know how easy that is to really see. Maybe if there's just one side. It does wave a little bit as part of the whole slip thing, but so these are bigger than I would make for myself. So I do need to make sure that they will fit my mother well. Also, you will see here that a child put a pizza on them, and so there's a little bit of crusty. So, whatever. They have not been worn, they just have some pizza guts on them. So sorry. So that is my first finished object, and really it's like my only technical finished object, but I do have another one, and the reason that it kind of seems like I don't have much is because this is the thing that I pretty much worked on the whole time that I did knit. Like I said, there was a week that I did not knit at all. I was very busy. Like on the Saturday, I was able to knit some, but on the Sunday, I preached. Then I went to town and like got soft foods for people to eat, picked up prescriptions, and then Sunday night I got sick. And then for like 4 days, I did not move. So there were times that the pain in my bones was as bad as like childbirth was in my like hips and stuff. It was not awesome, and my hands hurt too bad to even think about knitting. Like, my phone was too heavy for my hands to hold them up, and so I did not knit for, I believe it was from a Saturday to a Saturday by the time I got back into it. And so that really kind of took out a lot of time. But the thing that I'm getting ready to show you has been living in my alpaca bag because it doesn't fit in very many other bags. But you have not seen this as a work in progress because I started it after the last podcast. There are not ends woven in at all, but this is my What the Fade, and I cannot see through it enough to see if you can even see this. So here's, you know, like a half of the triangle. I finished the bind off last night about 10:30, something like that. I can't remember. And it hasn't been blocked at all. It was such a relief to get it off the needles. I will go over the yarns again if I have all of them. I had 3 hedgehogs and 3 Nebraska dyers. well, not 3 dyers, but 3 Nebraska yarns. Oop, it looks like I do have all of them. Actually, no, I don't, because one of them didn't have it. That's right. Okay, so I had Amethyst Sky from Hedgehog. These were all club colorways. I don't know why that was just beeping at me. Sorry. These were all club colorways, and I pulled them out and made them into my fade. And I did show this fade on the last podcast. But this was Amethyst Sky from Hedgehog. And that was my color A. Then my next color, I was a little bit concerned about my speckles really like getting too crazy if I did all speckles. So I chose 2 more solid colors to go with them. So my second color was this purple, and it's Night Bus Escape from One Twisted Tree. That is a Nebraska dyer. She's no longer dyeing, but I have quite a bit of her stuff to use, and I thought it looked really wonderful with that hedgehog. Then that faded into, yeah, the blue, which is the Airy Fairy from Hedgehog. That's how much I have left of that one. Then we went into Impromptu from Lofty Loops, and that was also a single space. The One Twisted Tree was her prime. It was a 75-25. And yeah, all the hedgehogs are singles, and then this one was a single. And then the last hedgehog was Samba. I have quite a bit of it still. And last but not least was Christmas Cheer, and this was the full skein that was in my advent calendar from Lofty Loops. I'll show you her tag again. And it was also a speckle, but it was much more subtle of a speckle compared to like these crazy ones. And so I ended up going every other one basically with a more tonal or lighter speckle. So, and also if you don't know what the fade is, it's an Andrea Mowry pattern. I am currently debating, these are black and white pictures, so I don't know how great this is going to be to look at, but it does include tassels on it. I am absolutely not a tassels girl at all. Like if there's a purse that I'm like, oh, this is really cute, and then I see that there's a tassel on it, I'm like, nope. And I will not buy that purse. Like I don't know what it is, but it's one of those things that I'm just like, no way. However, I really am liking how they look on this. And when it first came out and I saw the tassels on it, I was like, ew, no, I'm never knitting that. I never expected to knit it. And then, you know, I got a wild hair. So, where did I just hide that picture? I feel like on this shawl, however, that it really finishes it. That it weighs down those corners and just, I don't know, it's like it completes it. So I'm struggling. Also, I do like that it's faded. I don't have a ton of yarn left, but that would use up quite a bit more just to not have, you know, random small balls in my stash. But again, I'm not sure. So, and I just finished it last night, like, and then I went to church this morning, so I haven't even had a chance to really lay it out or steam block it. That's what Andrea Mowry suggests doing, and I think that I need to do that and kind of see it as a finished piece a little bit before I decide about the tassels. I think I'm leaning more towards doing them, but again, I'm usually not a tassels girl. So again, this is the front, and then on the back it has more of the lighter color. So with this, I used a 3 a US 3, which I believe is what it calls for. I did not swatch. Yes, it calls for a 3. However, I do have a problem with making sure that my eye cords on edges stay loose enough to stretch with a shawl. So when I started doing the eye cord bind off last night, I did pull out a US 4 DPN and did that around. Partially because the shawl is heavy and I had it on 47-inch cords. And it was still bunched up. I had no idea how big it was going to be. I'm like, this doesn't seem like it's really big, but it is kind of bunched, so I don't know. So I did do that. I also, Allison from Lofty Loops had said that she saw in like maybe the Ravelry group or something that people were talking about when they did the increases in the brioche that they knit the eye cord twice on the edge for that row and then like the row after that so that you're knitting the other side. So I did start doing that probably somewhere in here, and that seemed to leave enough stretch. So at the very beginning I wasn't doing it, and you can see that there's not a ton there, but like down here where I know I was doing it, I feel like there's more stretch. And I didn't add anything like down here, but with the garter I felt like it was a little bit better anyway. So then, yeah, so this, doing it with a 4, I thought it actually looks nicer than the other places that I was knitting the eye cord, and it has enough stretch, so I felt comfortable with that. I did make a mistake somewhere up here at the top. I think right here. Yes. So you can see this one right here is a lot farther apart before like a new one starts, and I missed an increase there, but what I did is I left it because I was like clear down here before I realized it. Like I couldn't even tell. I had to look for it. You can kind of tell if there's a bare space before a line starts, but it didn't really affect anything. And so when I got into the garter, I just did one extra knit front back to add the 2 stitches that weren't on there because I missed that increase, and it was fine. And you never would have known it was there if I hadn't told you. So I think that if I were going to make this again on my garter, I would have done my color changes on the opposite side. So the way that they're written in the pattern calls for them to just be changed, and they do stripe a little bit. You can kind of see that there's some striping on that side. But because of the way garter goes on the back side, like for instance my fading point, you changed colors on the back side, so you kind of see a little bit of striping on the back side, but it's actually the other side that you're supposed to be looking at. I actually prefer the fade on this side because it does not have the striping, and I feel like it actually fades a little bit better into itself. So I would have put my garter fade, like the fadier side, on the front because I do like the darker side better than this side. And that's probably how I will wear it. But I'm not a huge stripe person. I've been kind of getting away from stripes. And so I don't know once it's on that you would really see it, but this side does look a little bit more stripey than say the other side where it fades a little bit better. So that is my What the Fade. I am happy with it. I never considered making this until we were at VKL in Minneapolis, and my roommate Julia, she cast it on while we were there, and she bought some wonderful Madeline Tosh with like rainbow sparkle, like rainbow stellina from Mad Tosh, I think, and it was gorgeous. And so that was the first time I really thought about making it. And then Allison started hers, and I'm like, I wonder, I just organized my whole stash. I wonder if I have the colors. And so then like I looked at the colors, and it was all downhill from there. But I did do this in basically 2 weeks. It's been 3 weeks since I started it. I don't know if I actually started it on Sunday, but I know that there was a week that I didn't knit, and it's been 3 weeks since I podcast. So it took about 2 weeks. And I mostly only knit on this. It's kind of an addictive knit. And I thought that the garter would be really bad. I thought that I would just be bored out of my mind by the time I got here. And I was kind of getting tired of the super long rows. But because the fade is so short, I mean, this is only like 10 down and back, I think, of the same color by itself, and then you're already starting to stripe or put new colors into it. So there wasn't like a lot where it was like boring. It just kept changing a lot. So I didn't really even get all that bored. I was just tired of it taking. I think the rows got up to probably just going down one side being like 25 minutes long, which is really long for me. But the bind off did not take nearly as long as I thought it would. I was reluctant to start it last night because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to bind off almost 600 stitches before I have to go to bed and we have church in the morning. And then I finished it at like 10:30. Like, it seemed like it took forever to get to the midpoint, like to the point. And then before I knew it, I was pretty much at the end. I was like, oh, okay. But of course there was not time to do anything with it really after that. So I'm going to stare at this for a few days, see if I can find all the parts of my steamer. That's how she recommends blocking it. And I think that that's probably a good idea because I feel like it might grow too much if you actually soak it. And I think that's probably part of the reason that she suggests that. And I think also that it might cause the yarn in the middle to really grow, and the I-cord only has so far that it can go, and so the steam might just, it's in that structure and it's just stretching to that point. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And then I will decide about tassels. I think that it would be something the kids would really, the little ones would really play with a lot. But I do feel like it kind of makes it look complete. So I may do it. I know that last time I had an almost complete hat that I said I was going to rip out, and I did. And then I knit just a little bit so that I would have it during our foster care class to knit on, and then the topic was loss and separation, and so I didn't really knit. It was a little bit too emotional for that. This is Lofty Loops, and this is Dance of the Druids, the like presenting color, and the background color is Neptune. The Dance of the Druids is her glitz, and this is like her regular sock, Lofty sock. Yep. So again, Lofty Loops. That's what her labels look like before, look like now. The impromptu one I showed, I think, is her older one. So this is a hat that I'm designing. It is just like a completely basic brioche hat because I couldn't find a brioche hat exactly like I wanted. I did have to rip it out because I was thinking more about size than how to do the decreases up top, and because of the way brioche works, it wasn't working out. So I needed to change the number of the cast on by like very, very little so that it would work out and look nice. So I'm going to be knitting on that, and getting out that design. I did work on that just a little bit. That was, I think, actually before any of us even got sick. So it's been a little bit since I touched that. I did cast on I feel like as this winter drags on, that I am becoming very restless. And we normally have more snow than we've had. We have snow a couple times a week almost, but it's not doing anything. It's like we get a dusting twice a week or something. We haven't gotten a really good snow other than on Elizabeth's birthday, like December 1st, it snowed enough we couldn't go anywhere. And it made for a nice picture of my tree to show you all through Vlogmas. But we haven't really gotten that really cozy snow where it's just beautiful to look at. Everything's just brown and dead and bare and just not awesome. Also, we've had about a month or more now of frigid temperatures. So the week of Christmas and 2 or 3 weeks since then, we've had below 0 temperatures regularly. Normally we get like a week where we get that and then it's over. We've had so much more of it this year and so much less snow, and it's just, I'm going crazy a little bit. I usually like winter and that cozy feeling where you just get to stay home and the kids are out of school and you just get, everybody gets a snow day and everything just stops. We have had none of that. So I feel like that has really affected my mood and just, I'm starting to go a little bit crazy. I understand cabin fever now because it's not, I don't want to go out. It's disgusting out. But also I feel like I'm cooped up. So on top of having had the whole family be sick. So I have had this yarn in my stash for like 2.5 years, something like that. It was it was like the first kind of round of trips where I started doing souvenir yarn purchases. And it is Plymouth Alpaca Baby Grand in this tweed. And when I bought it, the yarn store people, it does not say what the actual, like on its label, it doesn't say we're a bulky, super bulky worsted, whatever. It just had some yardage, and having not been a person who had bought bigger yarn before, I specifically went in with the Decemberist by Melanie Berg pattern that I was looking for yarn. And I asked them if it was super bulky, and they said it was. It is not. It is bulky. So I bought 3 skeins of it, which would give me the right amount of yardage. However, it is not the right size. And so I've gone back and forth several times. I really want this shawl. I really want this yarn in this shawl. So I've gone back and forth about what to do with this, and I finally decided I'm just going to try it. I am a looser knitter, so I picked up a pair of 11s, which is what it calls for with the super bulky. And I just did a little bit, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to actually go up to a size 13, just to open it up a little bit more. But I do feel like it's baby alpaca, so it's probably going to open up more when I get it wet. I'm sorry, those keep clanging together. For right now, I'm not going to be changing anything. I think I'm just going to continue on it. It is super, super soft. It has not become a mindless knit for me yet because it uses make one lefts, make one rights in 4 places. And it's not, I don't know, it has not become intuitive to me yet. So I haven't worked on it very much, and I was kind of debating over whether to go on bigger needles or not. I think I've decided not to. I'm just going to keep going and see what it does. Oh, so that's, oh, I forgot. That's one more. Yeah. That kind of leads me into talking about my skein watch for the month. Because I just realized my skein watch is incorrect because I didn't write this one down. Or wait, did I not do this one until February? I think this was February. Never mind, it is correct. So for my January stats, I was just going to go over that. I finished 2 projects. That's kind of depressing. The Life's a Peach socks and the baby blanket that I showed last week. I also worked on 8 other projects in January. What?
Can you say the name of your socks?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been released.
Okay.
Way to mess up the podcast, Mike.
Sorry, everybody.
So in the month of January, I had 2 skeins of yarn come in, and I had 13 get knit. So that is a pretty good thing. That's 11 out of my stash, as compared to the 539 that I started with. So I'm pretty happy with at least that part of the skein watch. The What the Fade being finished will go on to next month, as well as if I do this shawl, which will include 3 skeins. The brioche skein, or the What the Fade skeins, are on January, but actually having the finished project will be in February because I just finished it last night. So I am making some progress, which is good because I didn't necessarily feel like I did, especially thinking about I really only finished 2 things in January. I did work on a lot of different things, kind of random. I am having a hard time focusing on the things that I started out the year intending to focus on, like my Make 9 and my Finish 9. I have not touched any of those in forever. I had intended to cast on my Hayagides, Huga, that's how you say it, I think. And make that because I've really been wanting a navy sweater, and it is worsted weight, so it'll be nice and comfy. But the What the Fade really just kind of took over my life, and that's what I wanted to work on and I wanted to make progress on, and learning to brioche really kind of killed it for working on anything that I had before. Brioching, that's like my jam now. So I'm just kind of going over my list of everything that I have in my Make 9 and my Finish 9, and none of them have been touched since the beginning of January. I am hopefully going to be getting back to that because they are still things that I'm interested in having. I want them done. In fact, my, my Parisian Dream sweater, I've like the last week been thinking about, I should really just finish those sleeves because I could be wearing it right now and it's so pretty and I want it. And now that I'm done, I might be able to start doing that. However, as part of my going crazy and getting antsy and everything, I did do a thing the other day. So hold on just a second. I'm sorry, I need to take a drink because I can tell that my voice is going away. So for a while now, I've really wanted to learn to spin, but also I've like been avoiding it because I know that it will take time away from my knitting, and my husband is a pastor and I stay home, and that is how we want to raise our children. But also there's not like a super ton of disposable income, and I don't want to. A spinning wheel is the equivalent of like 6 sweaters, 6 nice indie dyed sweaters. That's a lot of sweaters. And then after that, then you have to like buy the fiber for them. And so I have continually, kept looking at them, but I know that that is something that I am not in a position to really start right now. But I was like getting the bug again really bad this week. And I think that it's part of that. I'm done with winter. I want to be out of the house. I'm so tired of this cold nastiness. And it became uncontrollable, even though I knew that there was no way that I was ordering a wheel. I could not stop looking at wheels, looking at spinning stuff, yada yada. So then I convinced myself to look at drop spindling as just a way to see if I really... I don't think that drop spindling and using a wheel are going to be the exact same thing, because it's completely different. But it is taking fiber and turning it into yarn. And so I think that in some respects it will help me decide whether I would really continue to enjoy having a spinning wheel if I made that investment, and that I'm not going to just turn around and resent time that has been taken away from my knitting. If any of that makes sense, then you are smarter than I am, because I can't really even completely process it in my head. But you can get into drop spindling for much less, like 3% of what it takes to buy a wheel. So I decided that I had to do that, and so we traveled a really long ways to go to a store in Stromsburg, Nebraska. If you're wondering where Stromsburg is, you aren't going to find it. It is sort of in the middle of nowhere. And by sort of, I mean absolutely in the middle of nowhere. We are an hour from everything, and it is another hour away to that place. Yeah. So, it's a little town. It's not really by anything. But the person who owns Spindle, Shuttle, and Needle is the person that does the York Fiber Fair, or I guess it's called Mid-Plains Fiber Fair, and she also has a brick and mortar store. She hand dyes fiber, and she sells wheels. She does have an Etsy shop. Her website is on here, but whenever I try to go to the website on my Apple phone or computer, it will not go to the website. But I did find her shop on Etsy. And so I went out there and I picked up some fiber that she had dyed and also a drop spindle. This drop spindle is made by her husband. And it is a bottom whorl with a hook. And it was $9. And then I got this beautiful braid, and this one is called English Rose, and it is green, purple, and white, which I think you could probably tell without me saying that. I think on this one I plan, I have not started doing anything with these yet. I wanted to finish my Wet the Fade before I started anything else, really, because I was afraid that if I put that down that I was not going to want to come back to it. As much as I wanted it to be done, that I was not going to want to put in the effort of making those really long rows. So I really wanted to finish it. And so in the meantime, I think that was Friday that we went and got this. I have just kind of been staring at the fiber and watching a bunch of spinning videos on YouTube, trying to decide what I want to do. And I actually think that I'm going to split this lengthwise and do it from one end to the other, so that I can ply those together and have it be a gradient to possibly use for like a cowl or something. Hopefully. My concern is that I do want yarns that I would want to knit with, which means fingering-ish weight. possibly up to like Sport and DK, but this will be my absolute first experience with any sort of spinning. I have no idea what I'm doing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I did kind of go in there with the idea of just wanting something plain to do, but she kind of talked me into pretty stuff because it would be less boring, which is probably a good thing because I think that drop spindling, especially while learning, is probably going to take a lot longer than doing it on a wheel, and just doing plain fluff forever might get pretty boring. I also, is that the girls coming home?
Yep.
Oh. I also bought this crazy braid, and it is kind of just a splotch dyed one. I'm going to unbraid it and see if there's any kind of repeats, but I think it is just kind of, you know, all over dropping the color. And I'm not super sure yet how I'm going to do this one. I think I'm just going to tear it in thirds long or fourths long ways and go for it. I don't know. The colorway name for this is Spring Has Sprung, and I'm interested to see how these colors look when they're mixed together. They're not very big sections that are a color, and so it'll be interesting to me how that comes out. Whether they'll really kind of mix together and mute, or if I'll get really pretty barber pulling or something. So, and I feel like this is maybe the one that I will do first, just because it's going to be more of a crazy thing anyways. If I'm able to get a usable yarn, then I was thinking something like a sockhead hat. But I feel like it's not really going to be as noticeable if I kind of mess up whatever I do with the colors in this one, because it's going to be crazy variegated anyways. So anyway, that is my plan for these beauties. And while I was there, I was talking to her about wheels, and sometimes she gets a line on a used one, and so I'm kind of hoping that maybe that's an option for me to get into spinning it on a more affordable way. I do know that last year at Synod School, there was a lady there that has sheep and alpacas that she shears but doesn't really do anything with the fleeces, and so she had offered to just give them to me. And I realized that that probably means that they're going to be pretty dirty and need a lot of work, but also like I'm willing to put work in for free wool that I could then use to learning spinning and you know, possibly ever dyeing. I have no idea. But I reached out to her just to kind of see, now that I know a little bit more about what goes into processing wool, because when she first asked me about it, she just said, because I was knitting, she asked me if I knew how to make hair into yarn. And I was like, you mean wool? Like, what? I did not mention, but this roving is Colombian Rambouillet. So, both of these are that. So this is going to be my new thing, and we'll see how it works out and how I like it. Even if I don't like the drop spindle, I want to find an opportunity to use a wheel and just see how that is, because I don't think a drop spindle is going to tell me for sure whether I'm going to like using a wheel. I think it will give me an idea of whether I like working with the fiber in this way. So we'll see. Other than that, as far as life stuff, I've kind of sprinkled in all of the sickness stuff and the sickness and what was the other thing? Oh, the weather into the rest of the podcast. Today I am wearing my Make Your Own Luck shawl by Paper Daisy Creations, and I felt like I needed some rainbow, so that is why we're doing that. I think I have about 3 weeks left of my class that is human relations and that I have to take to get my Nebraska local substitute license, which I turned in this past week and am just working on all that. I have to do fingerprints and stuff. So that is going places, and that also kind of leads me into the last thing that I wanted to talk about before I go. There's been a lot of conversations about inclusivity and diversity in the knitting world. And I know that in the past I had noticed that there were not a lot of faces that didn't look like mine. And as a person who appreciates diversity, I was like, where are the other people? But I wasn't seeing them, and quite honestly, I thought it would be completely racist to like search black knitters or Hispanic knitters or Asian knitters or whatever, because that was othering people. Yeah, I don't know how to eloquently say things like this. But between our foster care class, which also talks about diversity and not just in the racial aspects, but lots of different ways, the conversations that have really kind of gone in earnest in the knitting world, there has been these aspects in all parts of my life, and it's been kind of a hard but transformative month. And I just wanted to share something, well, actually two things. First of all, I am absolutely in favor of diversity and inclusivity and will not, under any circumstances, tolerate hate speech or actions or anything like that. It makes me incredibly sad to know that people have been treated badly within this community at all. It was stupid of me to not think that it would have happened in this industry, just because it seems kind of a happy place. But again, that's my privilege talking. There was another thing that I wanted to say, and now I've forgotten it. There's another part to that. I do know that I am not part of the silent majority, and I want that to be super, super clear. I'm probably going to have to continue whatever the other little thing was that I had there that I wanted to talk about. But, oh, I do know. So, I was just going to mention that especially in the very beginning of this conversation, when there were a lot of things going around, like follow these people, that it felt wrong to me to follow people because they were different. That was hard for me to... I wanted to follow people because I like seeing different stuff. I don't want to see all pastel yarns in my feed. I want to see every color. I feel like I could make a rebuttal to that and be like, I don't really want to see yellow because I don't really like the color yellow, but that doesn't go with my whole analogy here. I want to see that in my feed. However, if you think about it, if everyone that you know in your life is a white person, and then you follow tons of designers who are white, and that is who the algorithms that be will show you as new people for you to find. And so you're actually kind of shutting yourself off from being able to find people who are different and can add to your life. So while it kind of does feel that way a little bit when it's kind of a focus on you should follow all of these people because they are people of color, that it's hard for that not to feel problematic, and I get that. However, if you follow the knitting diversity hashtag, then you can find people that have aesthetics that you like. I have found so many people that I'm like, wow, I love this yarn. I love these things that they're knitting. It is the same thing as everybody else, but it's people that the algorithms were not showing me. It has been a very beautiful journey, and I'm glad that it has happened. It's been a little uncomfortable sometimes, and I get that. I do. But I was going to recommend something else. This is a book that I bought last summer, and it got put on my shelf, and I did not read it. I bought about 50 books last summer, and it was one that I really wanted to read, but had not gotten around to because, quite honestly, I hadn't read anything. The only books that I was really reading at all were audiobooks. I don't know if this is available as an audiobook, but especially if you are a white person, and I know that the majority of the people on that I like see pictures of who is subscribing to me are, I would encourage you to read this. It is called Waking Up White. It is by Debbie Irving, and it is a transformative book. When it first starts out, I don't know if this is actually a picture of her as a little child, but she's a rather upper class New Englander. And so when she first starts talking about some of her privilege in the form of New England upper middle class, yeah, I quite honestly was shutting down a little bit. It was like, this lady doesn't know, we do not have the same experiences. Keep reading. It's only like the first chapter that I was like, I don't know about this. It was a very good book. It is a book that I read in less than 24 hours, and I plan to go back and read it again. I wouldn't say that there are a lot of things, I don't know how to put this. My husband and I do a lot to be aware of issues of social justice. We try to address it whenever we see it in our life and in our church. Quite honestly, in this part of the country, we don't really have a lot of racial diversity, though there are a lot of Hispanic immigrants and also some Ethiopian and Sudanese immigrants coming in. They're to the towns on either side of us, but not in our town because we don't have industries that provide jobs here. But both sides of us kind of do. But our town there's not racial diversity. We do have a lot of diversity in the form of income, really, is more the diversity that we have and the challenges that we have. And that's what we address with our food pantry. And a lot of what we've done here is education. But in general, we try to be aware of social justice issues and address them in a way that makes sense for our area to kind of help. I don't know. It is not, truthfully, talking to a whole bunch of white people about things that don't actually affect them personally is kind of burning me out. I'm gonna be completely honest. I would much rather be marching behind people and But that's not our place in life right now. Anyway, so there wasn't a lot in this book that was like really shocking to me as far as stuff that I like biases in myself that I wasn't aware of that like this brought out. However, there were things about the historical systematic racism, which is a word that I've used before and that I thought I understood, but reading this book, it was not like a history book. It was not boring. There were some mind-blowing moments. I would really, really suggest reading this. Waking Up White. I think there is literally something that anyone can get out of this book. I think it's an important conversation. I think that it is important for us to know those history things, because some of the things that it talked about are things that I absolutely know set up some of the farmers around here for the prosperity that they enjoy today that were not available to people of color. Anyway, read the book, pretty please. If you hate it, I'm sorry. I think you won't. I think you will get something out of it. Pretty mind-blowing. I did a lot of bawling. But I just wanted to share that with you, that if you're looking for a way to kind of understand some of the things that's going on, some of the conversations, if you're not really sure about stuff, that is a really good book to kind of help you figure out what you need to do. Simple as that. So, I think that's all that I necessarily wanted to say about that. I wanted to definitely share that book recommendation because I think that it is a must read. It's something I think that we are going to get our 11-year-old to read here before long. Probably with us, just to help with any topics she doesn't understand, but it was a fantastic book. And we're wanting to do a book study like in our church with it. Just how to sell it is, you know, something we're thinking about. Anyway, I think that is it for the podcast. I'm looking around and it looks like everything is here. I will be working on some of my rainbow stuff. I do not think I'm going to finish my beaded rainbow shawl for the rainbow along, but I do think that I will finish my cowl. The rainbow along is through Suburban Stitcher as well. But I think today I might start playing with my new toy. See what I can do with this stick. Quite honestly, this seems like witchcraft to me, and I'm not really sure how this is going to work out. But anyway, so I want to thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to like or subscribe. Feel free to go over to the Ravelry group, ask any questions that you have. Let me know if there's anything that you would like to hear about on the podcast. And until next week, stay warm, my friends.